welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole and I typically like to do fashion DIYs, and in today's video I am sticking with the accessory theme that I've started, and I am going to make my very first bag. I have never made any type of purse, bag, not even a tote to be honest, which is pretty simple and self-explanatory, but today I've decided to make a shoulder bag, and I'm also going to be making it with patchwork denim. I have a lot of scrap denim material and I thought I would kind of put it all together to make some sort of patchwork fabric so I can create stuff out of it. So I'm going to start with the bag and I'll see how that goes, and so will you, because I'm going to be documenting the process. But before I get started, please be sure to subscribe to get more fashion DIY content and give this video a thumbs up to let me know if you like this. And all of my socials are Smiles for Nicole, so if you'd like to follow me, I will have them linked down below. So let's get started. So I think patchwork denim, anything denim, is right up my alley. So I've never actually made anything patchwork before. I'm just gonna kind of figure it out as I go, but I think the easiest way to go about it is to come up with like a width that I want all of my pieces to be, and I'm okay if the length is different because I don't want it to be perfect squares. I kind of want it to be abstract and organic. So I think I'm just going to start cutting up my denim pieces, maybe 2.5-inch squares wide, just to include a seam allowance in that. Let's get cutting.
So if you have a rotary blade, I highly recommend using it. Mine is broken and doesn't actually rotate when I push it, so I am stuck using my fabric scissors, which probably added an additional 2 hours onto this project at least. So I am just using my ruler and chalk to map out the strips before cutting.
Okay, so now that I have a bunch of squares all cut up, I am going to start assembling my fabric. And I'm not sure, I don't feel like I have enough fabric pieces cut, but I am gonna just start with what I have and see how far this gets me. But I was debating if I should serge the edges before sewing all the pieces together because it is denim and it is gonna fray. But I think I'm going to hold off just to save some time. Let's see how time consuming this is.
Once all of my strips have been sewn, I laid them out to get an idea of how they would look next to each other. Ideally, I want to try to avoid any sections with too much of the same denim color touching. I want to maintain randomness. Before I started to sew my strips together, I made sure that all of the seams were pressed open.
Okay, it is officially the next day because making my patchwork denim fabric took me honestly like 8 hours yesterday, so I called it a day and I am picking back up on it now. And excuse my greasy hair, it is time to wash her, but I like to procrastinate on that. But anyways, so I am going to try to figure out this bag, and I was hoping to, if I had enough fabric left over, that I would also make a bucket hat because I'm low-key obsessed with bucket hats. So obviously this means it's time to draft our pattern, and I don't actually have a shoulder bag in the size and shape that I want, so I'm literally drawing it. So let's start that.
I don't remember the final measurements of the fabric I made, but I had about this much. So since I didn't have an actual bag to work from, I created this pattern by referencing another YouTube tutorial, which I will have linked if you want to check out, but I will also insert a diagram of the final pattern pieces for reference.
Okay, so now I am approaching the cutting phase. I feel a little weird about cutting this beautiful fabric that took me so long to sew and make, but honestly I'm realizing how little fabric the bag takes, so I think I'm gonna also take this opportunity to cut out the pieces I need for a bucket hat that I am going to make off camera. I do have a tutorial if you'd like to check them out. I will have that tutorial linked if you'd like to see how I would make the bucket hat, but yeah, let's get cutting.
So as I mentioned, I am cutting all the pieces I needed for the hat and the bag at the same time so I can really maximize my fabric. I ended up not having enough for the circle piece of the hat, but I ended up just moving some of the patchwork around to create a bigger piece later on. So now I have my body pieces, my side piece, and my strap. I moved on to the lining. For the lining, I used this red fabric that was actually a lining left from another project. I cut 2 of the body bag pieces and 1 side piece on the fold line. Before I started to sew my pieces together, I serged all the edges for a finished look. To start assembling my bag, I started with the lining, pinning the body of the bag to the side piece. To do that, I found the center of each piece and lined both centers before pinning. As you can see here, I had excess left over on either end, and I thought I was just miscalculating when I cut it, so I cut it off, but actually I needed that excess for later on, so I ended up sewing it back together. So please disregard this part. So once one side has been sewn together, I matched the centers on the other side, and when sewing this side, you are going to keep about a 4-inch hole in the lining so you can flip it back to right side out later on. Now that the lining was complete, I moved on to the denim fabric. I did the same thing for the lining by matching up the centers before pinning and then sewed it into place. Once the body of the bag was in one piece, it was time to install my zipper. I am using a 23 centimeter zipper. To figure out the placement of the zipper, I am once again finding out the center so I can match it with the center of the bag. Then I pinned the zipper to the bag. Before I started sewing, I made sure to switch my presser foot to the zipper foot and sewed as close to the edge as possible. Remember to open up the zipper before pinning to avoid stabbing yourself with pins afterwards like I did.
Okay, I'm warning you guys, if you are going to make this bag, do not use patchwork denim. I am obsessed with the way it looks, so I'm hoping it's going to work out, but you definitely need like a heavy duty machine to tackle the denim. So I'm lucky enough, I just have a domestic machine, but it is heavy duty, so I'm praying that this next piece is going to work out because I'm realizing how many pieces of denim are actually going through my machine at one time, and I'm a little nervous, but we will see. So I need to make the strap of the bag before I go any further, and obviously this is just pretty raw, so I need to clean up the edges. And you're supposed to kind of do like a triple fold, where I would fold in the corners and then fold it once again, so it's like a clean tube. But because it's so thick, I can't just do that all at once, so I'm just going to start with sewing each of the corners down just a 1/4 inch. So hopefully my machine can handle it if I do it bit by bit. Let's see how this goes.
Okay, one side done, not too bad, another one to go.
Okay, so I've sewed my strap, and if you can tell, it's twisting, which is to be expected because I wasn't paying attention to the stretch of each fabric, which is fine. I just have to kind of rethink this because this isn't cute and I don't know how to make it cute. So maybe I'm going to seam rip the stitching I just did and see if I can figure out a different way. I could do just a traditional like loop turn, but I felt like with all the patchwork on the inside that would be pretty difficult, but maybe if I trim it, it'll be easier. I don't know. I'm gonna seam rip this and see what happens.
This time I thought about sewing right sides together to try to push it through.
I don't even know what to do with it. I think I threw it in a fit of rage. So this is what I have so far. I was trying to stick a safety pin onto one end and kind of feed it through. Unfortunately, the pulling has allowed all of the stitching to come apart as I did it. So this was a waste of like an hour. So I am limited in the denim material that I have left, but I'm just gonna have to use it and make do. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling. Anyways, so what I'm gonna do is just use this leftover denim material, and I think just to give it some type of patchwork, I might do like half one way and half the other way, just so we have the contrast between these two denim washes, because the whole thing is patchwork, and then I think the strap just being one solid piece is weird. So yeah, wasn't expecting having to redo all this and have to figure this out, but this is a lot lighter, so hopefully it'll be easy to flip it inside out.
Going back to my pattern piece, I cut one strap out of my remaining denim fabric, leaving a little bit of extra seam allowance so I can create the patchwork. Then I cut it into quarters. Instead of right sides together, I sewed wrong side to right side to give it this two-tone denim look. Once I had sewn all 4 pieces together, I was able to press the raw edges down since the fabric was a lot lighter than the patchwork denim I was working with. With both edges pressed in, I folded it in half and pressed again before sewing a straight stitch to secure it in place. Then gave it a final press. To sew the strap to the bag, I pinned the strap to either side of the zipper. Then I grabbed my lining with the right side out, and with right sides together, I slipped my lining into the bag, matching the edges before pinning. Then I very carefully sewed everything into place. Some sections were very bulky because of the amount of denim layers that had really added up. But once that was all sewn, it was time to flip it right side out through that hole in the lining, trimming off any excess from the inside now that everything has been sewn. And the very last step was to go back to the lining and sew up that hole that I used to flip it right side out.
Okay, after like, I don't even know, 15 grueling hours, my bag is complete. I mean, aesthetic-wise, I love the denim, obvi. But honestly, the construction of it isn't my best work because I had to take something that was somewhat simple and make it extremely complicated by doing the patchwork denim, which obviously made it very tricky to go through my machine. Again, do not do this tutorial with a patchwork denim look because you might regret it. It was a lot of work, but she's so cute. I still have to kind of like flatten out the lining. Oh dear. Okay, the zipper got a little stuck in the lining, which leads me to my other problem, which is the lining isn't like flat, it kind of like bubbles up a bit. And again, I think that's just because there's too much fabric on the other side, which makes me want to just do like a little top stitch to kind of secure it all down. But I don't think I want the look of it on the outside. So I'm gonna try ironing it, but I have to be careful because I don't want to melt the zipper teeth. So yeah, I am super excited that this tutorial is now done. So that is it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if you would like to watch more of my DIY tutorials, sewing tutorials, fashion tutorials, please be sure to subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!